Station Houston on 2. Thomas, are you ready for the event?
And Houston, we are ready for the event.
European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Center Houston. Please call the station for a voice check.
Station, this is Melanie at ESA. How do you hear me?
Hey, Melanie, welcome to ISS. I have you loud and clear. How me?
I hear you loud and clear, and it's my pleasure today to hand you over to ESA's Director General, Josef Aschbacher.
Hi, Thomas. Very nice to see you. It's been a while that we saw each other, and it was really great. Thank you again for your phone call you gave me from the station to my birthday. This is very special, and my best birthday wishes ever in my life. But today we have two very special guests here. We have Commissioner Thierry Breton, Commissioner for Internal Market, and we have Commissioner Virginijus Sienkiewicz, I hope I pronounce it right, Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries. And this is very important for us as ESA. It's a very symbolic moment, I should say. We have a commissioner in charge of space. We have a commissioner who is using space data, and this is really great. So we are very happy to be connected to you, Thomas, and I would like to really hand over to Thierry and give the microphone to him to interact a bit with you and see how it goes.
Bonjour, Thomas. Hello. I hope that.
Bonjour.
I hope everything.
Happy to be with you today.
Yes, everything is fine up there. So, Thomas, as you know, we are now in Europe. We are extremely keen on space, and of course, the Commission is playing a very important role under my directorate. We have now a new directorate for space, and of course, what you are doing is definitely, and space is definitely about international cooperation. So first, we are extremely proud and happy that Europe is playing a big role here. Secondly, we are very proud that you are here today in space and representing Europe. So my first question will be, how do you feel this feeling of cooperation up there, and how you play, of course, your European role, while, of course, being definitely part of this tremendous international story?
Yes, and it's a great question. I think you see it. I mean, right away you see it around me. I'm answering your question from the Japanese modules. There's all the flags behind me on an international space station. A U.S. part, obviously, Russian parts. The European modules on the other side of where I'm standing right now. So it's a very, very international environment. Different languages being spoken, and it's really a good feeling to be part of this. I think everybody brings their own culture, and as Europeans, I think it's in our DNA to cooperate internationally, because when we bring something to the International Space Station partners, it has already been through, getting an agreement within Europe, which is not easy. So sometimes, yeah, it's more complicated, but I think it brings us a resolve that we show in all the international projects. I think the space station is a great example. It's very visible. It binds together a lot of countries visibly, and it shows what we have in common rather than highlighting our differences. I think it puts the spotlight on what we have in common, and we have a lot in common. We're here doing research. We're here trying to explore. I think it applies to everyone trying to push the boundaries of knowledge and exploration. But we've decided to act up upon it. But it's happening. It's happening at a level that is above any single country. I mean, no matter how powerful you are, if you want to go to Mars, if you want to solve global problems, it's happening at a global level. So I think that's what cooperation brings to the table, and I think that's in our DNA as Europeans.
Well, I think you said it. We are pretty well prepared in Europe to manage our differences and diversity. And yes, space is about managing cooperation and international cooperation. So we are very happy and proud that, of course, you represent us in Europe. Maybe before handing to Virginius to speak a bit more in detail about what you can do in terms of experiments, in terms of watching and monitoring the planet. Of course, you are, and we can see this here. You are managing a lot of instruments, but also a lot of data. You are generating and creating a huge amount of data. And that will be interesting to hear about your feeling about this managing data space, because we organize ourselves here, and especially in the Commission, to make sure that we'll be able to use this data for us in Europe, but of course for the planet. So how do you see this?
I think it comes back to solving global problems, right? The data we need is at a global level. So space is a privileged vantage point, it's a privileged place where we can gather data across the entire planet. If you talk about navigation, if you talk about communication, we can span entire continents if we have our assets in space. And if you talk about even environment, you need to get, whatever, ocean water temperature everywhere on the planet. How can you do this? Nobody has that many ships, right? But from space, we can do it. So we gather that huge amount of data. We do it daily on the ISS, but also obviously with satellites. And then we put that at the disposal of society, because we're a public service, so to speak. So with that, then we're trying to solve the problems. With that gold mine of data that we gather from space, then you can have, for example, a more efficient agriculture. You can look at the weather. You can have precise navigation for your tractors. You can do everything so much better if you're using that gold mine of data. So I think that's what our space assets, our European space assets, are giving us. They're very much oriented towards serving the public in Europe and solving global problems. And it's true for us on the International Space Station, but it's also, of course, true for observation satellite in the Copernicus program.
So it's a good transition for Virginius, I think, using data.
Maybe just one word on introducing Virginius. Of course, he's in charge of topics that are very much on top of everyone's agenda politically, and on everyone's election agenda, on everyone's political agenda. Also, Thierry is putting a lot of emphasis through Copernicus on environment. I know the program well, but I would like to hear also from the Commissioner's side on the environmental aspects, fisheries, ocean aspects, and how you see it up there, Thomas. But over to you, Virginius.
So hello, Thomas. It's a great honor and privilege to speak with you, and I'm still impressed when I see you there and I can hear you so well, loud and clear.
Yeah, the reception is sometimes better than the signal you get on a mobile phone in I was going to say Europe, but no, because the Commission is going to make it better in some other places.
Absolutely. But coming now and seeing and hearing you, actually, I was very well impressed with how you already put the message through, that to fight global challenges, we have to be united. And it should be really hard from up there, basically, to see our forests on fires, oceans changing, with ice caps melting. And unfortunately, that happens a lot due to human activity. And I feel that we have a lot of debates now on climate change. And many politicians have their opinions. And they tend to speak about very fancy things. But I think what we lack is actually to speak more about biodiversity and taking a better care of our planet. Because all the services that it can provide is there, and not so many fancy solutions can replace it. I see that you are a big supporter of SDG 17 goals, that they are part of your work. Maybe you could tell us a bit more, because I think that's the basis on which we can base our solution and achieve that we have a livable planet, not only for ourselves, but for our children and, of course, grandchildren.
Yeah, I think thanks for that question and for the opportunity to talk about those topics because they're dear to my heart. And like you said, I think I've made sure that the SDGs were included in my mission patch just because it's a personal goal of mine, but also because I think it's what we're doing at ESA. We're, like I said, we're a public service. We're trying to make the world a better place in so many different ways, and our action really helps some of those SDGs, if not all of these SDGs. So it's kind of a like an acknowledgement on my mission patch for everyone to see that what we're doing is not just for ourselves, it's for everyone, for the greater good. And yeah, I think from here, from our vantage point in low Earth orbit, if I open the windows behind me, it's too bright outside right now. I don't want to blind you, but what you see is most of the time beautiful, but sometimes also kind of frightening. You see the effects of climate change. Obviously, you see recently, like today, actually, this morning, we saw a second thunderstorm approaching the southeastern United States. We've seen Ida recently. I took pictures down the eye of the storm, which was hugely impressive. We see more and more of those, unfortunately, even from my mission 4 years ago. Now it's like there's a new one every week. You see the glaciers melting. In Patagonia, we're discussing it with Mark the other day. He was looking down Patagonia. You see water pollution. You see erosion. All the sediments coming down, washing down the rivers off into the sea because of deforestation upstream, you know, in the Amazonian forest and other places. You see air pollution. I mean, you see all those things, and it really makes you think. It makes you think that the planet is very fragile. It's a tiny little spaceship with a few billion, you know, crew members, but the same principles apply to us up here and to Earth. I mean, you have to manage your resources, right, on the space station if you want the flight to keep going, if you want to have food, if you want to have air, water. We have to manage this very efficiently. You have to get along. We didn't choose the other crew members, but we have to get along with them. And, you know, we want the flight to last as long as possible. And we want the flight of planet Earth, you know, to last as long as possible because there's just no planet B. It's not as if there was another plan so far. So it makes you think. We're trying to capture this. We're trying to bring the human perspective. We talked about all the data that we get from space, but we're also trying to get the vision from the astronaut, like put those problems at a human scale. If it's something you can take a picture of, if it's something that you can experience with your own, you know, senses, then people are gonna feel concerned. People are gonna feel impacted. Sometimes those problems are too big, they're too far away. It's hard to grasp. And I think that what we're doing, what I'm trying to do, is not only to have the scientific approach, the data, the science that ESA is very much at the forefront of, but it's also to be an advocate and to bring in some, you know, some human perspective. So if I've achieved some of this, then, you know, even with all the rest, all the science and etc., I think the mission is going to be a success, I hope.
There is clearly a lot definitely to be done, and I'm very proud that, you know, it's not coincidence that we are here today with my colleague Thierry Breton, because Green Deal, the plan which this commission put out, it requires a horizontal decisions across all the policy areas. And especially when we speak about tough decisions about our internal market, but also what happens around Europe. But most importantly, you already spoke about it, data harvesting. I mean, data is a gold of these days. And I think it's so many untapped potential which we still need to use in order actually to implement our Green Deal solutions faster. But what I'm extremely reassured that the Green Deal team is not only here in Brussels around the governments, but the Green Deal team is also in the space. And I'm very thankful to you for what you have said. It's a great message which has to be spread of what you see, and unfortunately that you see those changes coming way faster than anyone could expect. There is multiple scientist reports which we should read carefully and act. I think this is what everyone expects us to do, and your collected data, your collected knowledge only confirms that. So I hope we will use that data very well, and our cooperation will only put the Green Deal not as #1 agenda here in Europe, but around the globe.
And I can only agree with that. And sometimes people ask me, but what can we do, you know, to help? And my answer is usually, well, try to think about in everything you do, try to think about the impacts on the environment and the consequences, not just once in a while, but pretty much in everything you do. And that's pretty much what you said. At the political level, if you're taking that filter on every decision, then I think that's a really right approach, and that's an attitude that's going to go a long way. So I'm happy that we could share along those topics. I'm looking forward to the European Green Deal and to all those virtuous initiatives. I'm trying to do my share up here on the space station in the name of ESA, obviously, because ESA is a big player on those topics. And hopefully, when I'm back on Earth, and we can build up on that and do even more.
Maybe, Thomas, since you talk of the Green Deal and what astronauts can do, astronauts have a very powerful voice, as we all know, and your observation point is unique. You see the planet from a very specific viewpoint. As you know, the satellites, Copernicus satellites of Thierry and the ones being used by Virginius are a perfect combination of viewpoints from satellites who are measuring quantitatively and you with your human eye and your emotions which are coming on top. But what I really would like to dream of or to imagine is that this technology, where we have the data side on one side through the Copernicus missions, which Thierry is managing and owning, basically, but also on the user side to use it to the full strength for Europe, for our planet, and making sure that climate change can be not only understood, but more than that, that we even can use all this data with all the digital means to simulate situations on our planet. And therefore, the simulation for me is very important for decision makers and for politicians. And I think your help, Thomas, when you come back on Earth, this would be essential, that we can work together on seeing it from your side, and you are giving your impressions. We are trying to do it with our machines and our satellites, and I think this combination is enormously powerful. We have seen it already in the past, and this is something I'm really looking forward to. And I think this is something I would like to engage maybe a bit more formally, maybe creating a flagship as an ambition of Europe has a leadership, and where we can really combine these various elements of it.
So thank you very much, and Thomas,
it'll be a pleasure being part of this.
And Thomas, j'espère que vous faites bien la cuisine pour vos collègues aussi là-haut. Hein.
Malheureusement, ils ont été un peu déçus par mes talents culinaires, mais j'ai encore quelques semaines pour me rattraper. Donc, je suis aidé par des chefs en France, donc tout va bien. Ça va, j'arrive à m'en sortir.
Attention, parce que bientôt vous allez peut-être avoir encore d'autres responsabilités. Là, va falloir assumer aussi sur ce terrain-là. Hein.
Oui, c'est vrai, peut-être un peu moins de temps pour la cuisine, mais bon, il me reste quelques temps encore.
Absolument, bravo en tout cas. Et on compte sur vous et on est très fiers de vous. Thank you very much, Thomas. We are very proud of what you do together with your team up there.
Merci, and it was a pleasure being with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas, and have a good continuation of your work.
Thank you.
Bye, Thomas.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all the participants from ESA, and for the ISS, we'll now be resuming operational space to ground.